soon.
Yeah, I am.
Are you staying in the area, or what's your plan?
Yeah, I'm going to be staying in the area. I'm going to be moving closer to school. I currently go to college in UWGB, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So I just want to be closer to the school for ease of access to the library. I like to read. I know that I don't look like the type. I look like I know maybe 2 words. But
hey, you got me beat, man. The only time I've ever read books in my life is when I'm forced to for school, and even sometimes I don't do it then.
Okay, I'm not even gonna lie, and I don't even care if my professor sees this eventually. I totally forgot to read a chapter, and I'll just say it. I'll leave it at that. So I hope they all watch this one day, and they're like, which one of us was it? Like, which class was it that he didn't read for? And there's gonna be that one professor who's like, I knew it. He seemed a little dim that day.
But that's hilarious.
But anyways, so what is going on for you today, Collin? What is the biggest exciting thing, your takeaway for today that you have?
Not a whole lot. I mean,
what you just told me you're getting a new car earlier. Don't you lie? You're getting a new car.
Yeah. Well, that's not today though.
It's not today, but it's
a week though. But
oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I've had a piece of shit car for literally since like January, February. It broke down on me. And it literally just sat in the driveway. And actually, I take that back. Step back from that. It was in the garage, okay? And the downstairs unit owns the garage technically. And there used to be girls who lived below us. And they never used the garage. Mandy and I both had our vehicles in there for like 2 or 3 months. And we're like, well, if they don't say anything, we're just going to stay there. And they never did. Fast forward to June. 2 guys move in. I think they're actually brothers. Talked to them a few times. They're pretty chill guys. We had either I was going to work or coming home from work one day, and there's a note on the door that says, "Hey, move your car to the garage." Like, oh shit.
I know this doesn't sound. I know this doesn't. I know this doesn't sound appealing to you, but like that sounds like a downgrade to me. I know you're a married man now, but that sounds like such a downgrade. A whole bottom floor full of women to 2 brothers. Yeah, I would be very upset if that was me, but obviously your wife probably sleeps a lot better at night now.
Yeah, no kidding. But no, every time Dave, my father-in-law, stopped in, he's like, dude, you're living the life. You got a house full of girls. I'm like, yeah, I never thought of that. I'm like, I thought he was like testing me because it's what if that's your daughter?
You're just sitting there really stiff and like, there's only one woman I love, Dave. Like, just aggressive.
Yeah. But anyway, the guy's like, yeah, move your car to the garage. I'm like, fuck. The thing hasn't run in like 6 months. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I tried jump starting it just for shits and gigs. Knew it wasn't going to work. Ended up having to have Mandy sit in it and steer it while I pushed it out of the garage. Oh, yeah.
Did I ever tell you about the time?
It's a piece of shit. But
did I ever tell you about the time I had to push a van with while I was still in? I had to push a van with my squad. So we had to push a van probably not too far. It wasn't too far. We just had to get it off the road. It broke down literally on our way back. We were coming back from a training exercise trip in Maryland, and it just broke down. It just completely crapped out on us. And this is like not, you'd expect better in that situation, being in the Army. You'd expect them to give you better equipment. No. So we just got stuck out there, and it was an interesting experience. We just ended up having to figure out something to do. That was a whole wild shit show of a night. I loved every second of it, though. I hate it, but I love it now because I'm still here. So
yeah, no, there's plenty of stories like those to go around where at the time you're like, God, I hate my life. But then months, couple years down the road, you tap back into that story and you finally laugh about it, even though it was hard to laugh about it at the time.
You're just sitting there pissed the whole time, and then you reflect back on it. And that's how I feel about a lot of my experiences when I look back over the last couple of years. It's like, those are hilarious, or those are like, wow, I did that. Otherwise, it's like, there's very few moments where I look back and I'm like, yeah, I never want to talk about this again.
The new Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 coming out soon. I just have one question for you. What was your premier console? What was the console that just made your eyes light up on Christmas Day or your birthday or whenever you got it? What was that one that just sold you?
I mean, starting out when I was young, I was hardcore PlayStation. I grew up with a PlayStation 1 as like my first said console. We had a Nintendo, but like it wasn't working properly. I think I actually got it as a hand-me-down from like an older cousin or something, but it wasn't working well. So I honestly was too young to remember when we actually got a PlayStation 1, but I always remember playing on PlayStation 2. That was just kind of where I fell in love with, like you said, that Christmas morning feeling, or even birthdays where you you look under the tree and you see that rectangle-shaped thing sitting under the tree and you're like, let's go!
Then you open up a box full of socks and you're like, damn.
Yeah. And as you got older, you started to grab those other things to make it look like you're interested in, like, oh, I actually want the socks. And I want, like, your parents do deep down that, okay, they just want the game. They just want the game to go run and play. But and I actually remember a couple of times where I think it was like Madden 2010. I was like so excited that I got it that I literally just like ran to my room and it was like immediately started playing it. Like, Collin, like we got more gifts to open. We got like like we just started opening gifts. I'm like, damn. But
you're like concentrating. Don't you see? I'm about to run it down the line. So I got to ask you: did you play the Packers though growing up?
Oh yeah, you had to. Actually, I remember at one point I played as the Bengals for a while because I like the color orange, and that was literally my only reasoning. And that was like my only thought process of it was, oh, I love orange. This team looks really cool. And then I realized, wait, this is dumb. They suck. So I'm going to play as the Packers now. But
hey, at least you didn't choose the Cowboys. But that's my personal opinion.
America's team.
So for me, interestingly enough, actually, my first system that I can recall was a PlayStation. That I can recall was playing on. There was the OG PlayStation, which I know a lot of people go, oh, that's not that old, especially if there's an older audience base who will be listening to this. It's like, you gotta realize, I'm 24. That's a dinosaur to me.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about the fact that I can't read.
Well, I don't think I prepared to talk about that.
I don't think any of my teachers were either when my parents kept arguing with them, why are you failing? Because I can't read, that's why.
He keeps turning his book upside down and saying, I'm reading in Chinese, and we have to tell him, no, Michael, that's not how it works.
Damn it, I'll do what I want, okay? So I'm pretty sure it came out. Yes, there it is. All right, it came out in 6th gen. It was a 6th gen. There have been 5 generations before PlayStation finally came out, a video game system.
The first PlayStation?
Pardon. That is PlayStation 2. It is 5th gen. It came out 5th gen in 94. 1994, PlayStation originally came out. And they were competing against Sega and Nintendo. And they were they kind of took the world by storm because everyone was like, whoa, why are the people who made Walkman just jumping into the video game system industry? And they have way better funding at this point. Obviously, Walkman was very popular for anyone who's old enough to know what that is. So a lot of people didn't expect it to be this big thing, like to be this, like to blow out. Like they're like, oh, they're just kind of jump into this area they know nothing about. And also, when they came out with these original titles like that, people just couldn't even comprehend. PlayStation was not that hot. Like they had some fun games, but PlayStation 2 now, PlayStation 2 coming out the 6th generation. That is where that's when they started getting their exclusives like God of War. Let's see here, what else came out during Metal Gear Solid. Like these games were defining factors for the video game industry. They expanded so far on, and like they reached into a realm of adults. Like, because that was the thing. If you think about video games up to that point, there wasn't really too many like adult-based or young or probably middle of your life, teenager into young adulthood, where they could be appreciated. It was like things like Mario, stuff like that, a lot more family-friendly games, and a lot of these older gamers were getting burned out on that. So I just find it really fascinating how fast that expanded and jumped. If you actually look at how quick video games have evolved throughout the years, think about it. Think about when the first Xbox came out up until now. Look how much we have evolved. Like, I just find it all incredibly fascinating because it's like it took them years. Like some of the first games actually started off on computers. These computers that were not meant for your home. These were massive, and they shifted over. And the first video game was designed and people can quote me on this because I wrote it down. The first video games was called the Magnavox and the Magnavox Odyssey, and it came out of something called the Brown Box, which was created in 1969, if I am correct. Yep, by Ralph Baer. Yep, Ralph Baer, the Brown Box in 1969. And think about that. Think about how many years that is. That's what, like 52? 51? 51.
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
We're not good with math, but we don't
No.
need to be because we look cute. So that's the thing, though. Think about how much this has evolved. This brown box that turned into the Magnavox Odyssey was essentially just Pong. It was like you just knock a ball back and forth, a little pixel going back and forth. And now look at the quality of what video games are to this day. And we were talking about this the other day, how like you go back and reflect on these games that we played on the PlayStation 2. You go back and you look at like Medal of Honor Rising Sun, or even those Metal Gear Solid games, or even God of War. You go back and you thought that was like the realest thing you've ever seen. You're like, wow, it's like I'm there. And now you go back and look and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, no kidding.
Head's a box. His face looks like two lines.
Yeah. It kind of going off of how you said, like, we've been able to watch things evolve over time, is we kind of, like, with us being born in the late like mid to late 90s, we were able to be in that time period of where we got to see that evolution of the first PlayStation, first Xbox into what it is now. Because like you said, there's people that are older than us that either maybe had a harder time jumping into it, maybe they don't play video games at all. And there's people who are younger than us that all they know is Xbox One. You talk about Xbox 360, they don't even know what that is, which is kind of crazy to think about sometimes.
That is
so
actually,
just the fact that we've been able to really enjoy 4, 5, 6 different consoles in our lifetime of only 23, 24 years is kind of pretty crazy to wrap your mind around.
If you think about it, technically in our age range where we sit, depending on like, you know, how terrible or great our parents were, depending on how people want to look at it. Oh, you gave your kids video games at like 8. Like, well, I'm also not the guy who screams, I'm going to have sex with your mom online anymore. Because I did it. No. So, but you reflect back on it, because like I said, I started off on a PlayStation. I remember playing a Power Ranger game. I played a Power Ranger game. That's the only memory I have of it. I played a Power Ranger game. It was garbage. It was a garbage game, but it's awesome. It's an awesome memory because I remember playing that, and I remember not just that. I also remember handheld systems like the original Game Boy and all this, and playing these 64s, these older, like what we thought was old. Those probably seem ancient to these younger people that you're talking about that don't even know about, like, they probably don't even, like, they probably think the original Xbox is like that. I remember sitting in some of our friends' basements playing that and like, wow, this is cool. And then when it switched to the Xbox 360, that was so revolutionary. That was like, wow, this is cooler. And just and it's because like getting into it, for me, my defining Christmas moment for Christmas, it was the Gears of War edition. I can't remember if it was Gears of War. I think it was Gears of War 2. It's Gears of War 2 edition of Xbox 360, and my parents, like, they went the extra mile. And I will stress this: we were not a rich family, but they went the extra mile and they got this. And of course, my dad's like, "I'm playing it too," and I was like, "I can't fight you. You're a grown man." So, so we sat down and like seeing the quality of that game. It was like a whole new world was unlocked. Because yes, I thought PlayStation 2 was awesome. Loved it. Loved my memories of playing it nonstop. I went and picked up one while I was still in the Army for a bit, and I played it. I used to play these old Marvel games on it, freak out, you know, be like, like get super excited. But when I saw the quality of Gears of War 2, I was blown away. I was like, this is not a video game. This is art to me at this point. A lot of people are like, you're an oversized dude who beats up things called locusts. It's like, yes, but you don't understand. This is art to me. This is people's blood, sweat, and tears that they put into this. And I think that was like a turning point, not just for me, but for the whole video game industry, where people started to see video games as like, that's when, because like, look at where we are now. We have major league gamers. That was not even really a consideration when like, people used to think video games cause violence. They still do. There's still a group of people that do that, like, do think that. But now we have major league gaming We have industries literally defined by gaming. These people make so much money just playing video games.
Yeah, it's crazy to think growing up that like when you were 10, 11, 12 years old, you're in middle school, you're playing Halo and you're like, "Oh, I want to do this for a living." And your parents are like, "Get real. Like you're gonna have to get a real job someday." And you look back on it and it's like there's actually people who do that for a living and they make a lot. They make more than doctors. They make more than architects. They make more than people who actually like make the world go round.
Exactly, and I applaud them because they stood up. Because of them, a lot of them are in our age group. Some are a little older, some are a little younger. I applaud them because they had their parents. I don't know. I can't speak for all of them, but I'm sure some of them did. Had their parents tell them, "You're never going to go anywhere with this. This is video games. This is a recreational hobby that you spent money on, and you think you can be something with this?" And they went the extra mile, and they did it. They stepped up above and beyond that, and I have nothing but respect for these pro gamers who've done it the right way. I mean, we could go into the cheating scandals with several different people, but those people they always get caught in the end. But the ones who legitimately did it, who just refined their skill, who it's like anything. It's like if you want to be a good boxer, what do? You train. You sit there, you get in the gym, you drill on the bag for a while, you go for runs, you build up your cardio, you build up your muscular endurance. You train your body. These people train their bodies. They train their eye coordination for the game. They train their skill set. They learn the perfect optimized. Words are hard. We already clarified. Neither of us have a very good education. We grew up in Wisconsin. Don't hate us. So they optimize their capabilities to be the best they can be. And I truly just have nothing but the utmost respect for that. And I wish I could refine myself like that. I wish I could have that. Video games are a passion of mine, but being a passion doesn't necessarily mean I want to turn it into a career choice or a job set. Everyone has a lot of passions. And for me, I would rather talk about them. Like now, I'd rather discuss the beautiful growth the video games have gone through. And it's amazing. Like, so we actually have this barcade in Green Bay called Player 2. Awesome place. Just get me to go back and play some of these old school arcade games, and it makes me think about what video games are now and how it almost feels like a lot of people don't appreciate what video games have become. And so this is just my shout out to all those game designers who like just sweated it out, long hours, working hard, constant. Cheers to you because you made my childhood amazing, and you're making my adulthood bearable. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I kind of, I mean, now being at the age we are, it's harder when you go to like really any organization or I don't know if organization like a bar, a restaurant. You see those arcade games, and as a kid, that's all you looked forward to. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're going out to dinner. You walk in, you see that claw machine, you see Pac-Man, you see, I'm trying to think. Simpsons, Mortal Kombat. That's probably the biggest one there, which probably helped to put it on the map as far as even where it is today. With really any game, they probably started out in some form as just a box and a screen in a restaurant or a bar somewhere. That company eventually would evolve into the mobile gaming, the console gaming that we know today, and just kind of, I guess, realizing that now. It gives me more of an appreciation for when I do walk in and see those arcade games. You look at that and for a second you tap back into those memories of when you were little and asking your parents, oh, can I have a couple quarters? Or or even bringing what you had from home. It's like, oh, we're going to the bar. Oh, there's going to be games there. It's like we always look for a way to play, whether we had a console at home or we were out to dinner. Like you said, it became a passion where no matter where you went, no matter what you did, it was a part of our lives, and you try to make any opportunity to have our hands on a joystick or a controller and our face in front of a screen whenever we could.
Well, and that's that, because it genuinely was a treat for us growing up. Playing video games, I feel like the ease of access of video games now has kind of taken away from that, but at the same time, I am happy to see, like, because I still see it in some little kids. I see their faces light up. I see them getting to do this. and play these games. It's all about balancing it out. The thing that I think our parents did best, they managed the time we sat on video game systems. They wouldn't let us sit there for hours on end. Sometimes they would be like, okay, it's a weekend, you don't have anything planned. You can sit here and you can play games for a while. You're with your friends. It's cool. But other times they're like, no, you can't just sit there and sit in front of that television. You got to get outside. And I think that's the important balance. I think that is a very healthy balance because not only, obviously, it's good to get outside, be active, be healthy, and enjoy the outside world with a cat.
Yeah, that's my cat. He scared me, not gonna lie, because I have like my computer right here and my monitor for gaming right here, and his head just popped right out of this corner right here. It startled me, not gonna lie.
Wow.
Pretty much.
That's awesome. But anyways, back on point. Yeah, so we still got outside. We still enjoyed the outdoor world, but we also got to see the evolution of video games and enjoy that evolution. Now it seems like video games have taken over that major impact in this younger generation's life. It's not just like a side hobby. It's their main hobby. And it's like, it's okay, but I would prefer to see it balanced. And I'm not saying this is true of everyone. I'm speaking from personal experience I've seen with some younger generations. I see parents put their 6 to 8-year-olds in front of what's that new? I haven't kept up with Nintendo. What's the new system they have out?
The Wii, or not? Switch. Switch. Yeah.
Switch. Yeah. We're a little old. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say Wii. I'm pretty sure they shut down the server like last year. They finally shut down the servers for Wii. You can't play online anymore. So I'm surprised it took them that long.
I honestly, I can't imagine that those are too popular anymore. Speaking of that, though, it's crazy to go back and see some of the original games that we played, like on 360. They still have active servers. Some very few, like they did for the longest time. I don't know if they're still active. I think didn't they just no, I don't know because everything's backwards compatible, isn't it? So a lot of people still play it. I still play original Modern Warfare 2.
Mm-hmm. There's a time or two I went on to Black Ops. I think it was Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 2, and it wasn't a lot. I think it was like 15,000, 20,000 people that were on. Yeah, I don't know. Some reason that number is jumping out to me, which it sounds like a big number, but you look at these games today, like whenever we play Rocket League or something, there's 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 people online every time we're on there. Call of Duty, they're at millions of players. It seems like every week they're updating. Oh, we broke 30,000 or 30 million players worldwide now. It's like, oh my goodness. But
it's just crazy how much money they make off this industry now. Like, it's definitely beyond the billions. I think even in the 80s, and don't quote me on that. I'd have to go back and fact check again. I think they made over $2 billion in the 80s. The video game systems were not that great in the 80s, but they were selling like hotcakes. But the thing is, all of a sudden it plummeted severely, which is crazy. Video games almost weren't even a thing. Video games almost died fast. And to think about that just blows my mind how quick. Like, I'm glad to see it turned around and it survived, because otherwise, who knows? I mean, obviously, our childhood would probably still have been very fun, but we wouldn't have gotten the moments of bonding that we have. And that's another thing to talk about. The Xbox 360, the online play, and with the original Xbox. I don't know. The original Xbox had online play, right?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I'll kind of go into a story in a little bit when you're done finishing your thought, but.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, because these memories are so fleeting. It's so hard to retain them sometimes. But yeah, no, just getting into that, it's awesome that we got to have these experiences when we did. And I feel like, and maybe it's just because I'm part of this generation, I want to hope like and it means so much to me. I feel like it's one of the best like, I'm so proud to be the age I am and the way I grew up. I'm so happy. Like, I wouldn't change it. Mm-hmm. I might want to go back to the 80s because I watched Stranger Things, and I mean, I'm sure it wasn't that cool, but they made it look so, that synthesized music, long, floppy hair would have been awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, or you had mentioned that you're talking about like the 80s, and it kind of made me think of a point where, probably more specific, way more specific to you than me, is like even now, like literally just a week or two, playing video games with like your dad. I'm sure back in that time frame, like that, he was probably one of those people that were a part of that big craze. I don't know if you've ever talked to him about his, I guess his presence in the video game world back in the 80s and even the 90s. But I mean, he still plays them now. So obviously back then you think he would have been familiar with it. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of get his point of view where we sit here and we wonder, we look at these statistics and we can only wonder at, okay, what was it like back then? What were these people's mindsets to take that leap into the video game world? Because like you said, it wasn't a very popular household item to have. It was just kind of it was a certain crowd that you almost had to be in to have a Nintendo in your house. So
well, that's the thing too. I wonder how much they cost. I'm gonna look that up. I'll cover that in our next episode. I'll look into the financial aspect of it, and I'll get a little bit more information if that's something that interests the audience. As they come in and watch this, and we can always expand on this later on. It's not like the history is going anywhere. That's a beautiful thing about talking about things in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to change on you. So
and that makes me. It's funny you say that with like the history isn't going anywhere, and it makes me think. I don't know if it was from a TV show that I was watching recently, but history is written by winners, not by the losers.
Exactly.
So it makes you think. It makes you think. Back in the '80s, there's all these Nintendo, Sega that you mentioned. Even getting into more of the '90s when Xbox and PlayStation had a presence. It's what about the companies? What about the tech giants at the time that failed? That maybe there is a console back then that was like this close to breaking the surface that may have been way bigger than PlayStation or Xbox now, but one little thing went wrong for them, so they crumbled and never tried again.
Well, so it's funny you say that because Sega, for the longest time, was the competition for, like you just mentioned, Nintendo. And so when the NES came out, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and then I can't remember which one here. Just let me check my notes real quick. Which one Sega came out with first? Let's see. I know they had the Saturn. They had the. But yeah, if you even I read off this list of video game systems that came out at first, you will never know what these companies are. I've never heard of them. So it's like the Magnavox Odyssey. There's the we all know Atari, but the Telegram Atari Pong, the Coleco Telstar. That's another one. I hear a lot of people talk about they started on ColecoVision. A lot of these older generations. It's like I have no idea what that is, and I would love to play it sometime. And let's see, the Fairchild. I have no idea what that is either. I've never that sounds like something that just fizzled out and died. But moving into it, yeah, the Atari 2600. We'll see where Sega took its first big step. Yeah, Sega in 1983, and I think that was their next big step where they're competing with the NES. Yeah, and they were seen as the loser. Nintendo blew it out of the water. They were hands down considered the best system. And it was like a competition, but it's kind of like what happened with PS2 versus the original Xbox. The original Xbox was a bust compared to PlayStation 2. Believe that or not. And it's crazy to think about because you think about the original Xbox, yeah, it's this massive block.
Mm-hmm.
You got these massive controllers. But the thing that really sold them was their exclusives. And that's why Microsoft, even to this day, they still are so emphasized on their exclusives, like Halo. Halo was a genre-defining, just titan of a video game. It blew so many other games out of the water, and that it spawned so many ripoffs and so many runaways from it. It's crazy to think. Well, where would Xbox be without Halo? Where would Xbox on? I mean, Microsoft made a lot of money, but not to lose my train of thought to get back to it. But yeah, Sega died in the '90s with their Dreamcast, and and that was their last video game system they designed. I think it was '93. Pretty sure it was '93. But yeah, let's see here. Atari Jaguar. Sega. Or pardon, it was '98. It was the Saturn in '94. Yeah, in '98, that is when Sega just switched over to being a software company because the Dreamcast did not sell well at all. If you pull up if you want to pull up a picture of it, just to look at it for yourself. You don't have to screen share or anything, but like just look at it sometime and just see what this thing looks like. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'll pull it up just because I feel like
Yeah, you're gonna want to look at this.
Yeah. Wait, what's it called again? Sega
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast. Oh, it kind of looks like a PlayStation 1 kind of vibe.
And keep in mind, this thing was competing against, let's see, that was 98, so its competition 2 years later is the PS2. Not a chance. Like,
no.
Like, there's no chance. The PlayStation 2 was just such a beast of a system for that time period. Yeah. See, it just looks like, look at the controller. Like, what is that? But it's cool looking.
It's like the actual console itself. It gives off a hard PS1 vibe. Literally, with the way the tray opens, the 2 buttons on the sides, and then the controller slots in the front.
Exactly.
And then the controller is like Xbox mixed with like a Game Boy.
Yeah, actually, yes, Game Boy, perfect.
But
yeah, it's weird, and I wonder what that little screen is. I'm gonna have to. I might buy one of these. I might buy one of these and play it. Screens, I'm gonna have to. I might buy one of these. I might buy one of these and play it eventually if I can find one, because I'm curious to see how it plays, or at least if I can like find one somewhere. Like, you have to let me play your Dreamcast. This is my dream. Now let me play it.
Yeah, one thing I want to touch on before I forget about it is you're talking about Halo and wondering like, oh, where would Xbox and Microsoft just in general be without the Halo franchise? And it makes you wonder if they're even the first one. I don't even know if they are. That Halo was Xbox exclusive. You couldn't play it on Nintendo. You couldn't play it on PlayStation. You couldn't play it on any other console. So I wonder if because of how big Halo got, the fact that they made it Xbox only, it took a bunch of those people from that Nintendo audience, that PlayStation audience, and kind of even the playing field by bringing them into the Xbox world, because they're like, I got to check out this Halo game. Or they went to their friend's house and they have Xbox and they played it there. Like, now I got to get one. So it kind of makes you wonder if because it was Xbox exclusive that's where they were, that stepping stone that they're able to take off. Because if it crashed and burned, they make it Xbox exclusive only. They're not hurting themselves. They're not taking anybody else down with them because it's Xbox only. But because it did excel, I wonder if that's what kind of helped them rise to the top.
So it's funny you bring that up, because actually during my research, I found out, exclusives have been around for almost as long as video game systems have. So Nintendo,
oh, really?
Because those properties were like, everyone was trying to essentially create their own image. Look at Nintendo. The reason Nintendo was so popular is because it gave itself a face. It had Mario, and it had Zelda with Link, and they had these 2 representatives essentially that just drew in the crowd. Because if you think about it, you've got a figurehead now. You got a figurehead that you can slap in your commercials, your advertisements, and it's kind of going back into when I was talking to you about business. The why. They came with a strong why. They came with this idea. It wasn't about selling you a video game system. Nintendo started, they were a card selling company before they became a video game system company. I feel like their emphasis was on family, fun, and joy. And that was the thing. They just wanted to bring that and put it in every single household. And it just so happened they had the perfect mustache dude to do that. And weird little blonde Sprite. And then Sega did the same thing. The Sonic. That's when Sega started picking up momentum, because Sega was trailing behind Nintendo. But once they brought Sonic in, that was when they first started to seem like competition. And then PlayStation came in with Crash Bandicoot. And there's like, if you go back and look at these old commercials, it's like commercials, I'm pretty sure, of Crash Bandicoot outside like a Nintendo company building, just bad mouthing Nintendo. Like, they were like, if you look at the old school commercials, they're so cool. They're so awesome because there's just some authenticity to them. Now commercials, it's like you see like a million ads a day. You didn't have to worry about that before. You just saw commercials, and you're like, some commercials were enjoyable, but now it's like ads are everywhere. So you kind of got that dull part of your mind about it. You don't have that general like general, I want to pay attention to this unless it's something very outlandish. Like, that's why commercials nowadays have to be very competitive and funny and attention drawing and grabbing a lot more than those were. And those were great, but like, look at like the discount double check with Aaron Rodgers. Like, you got to have people like that coming in and doing some fun, entertaining stuff like that.
Like you were saying back in the day, it was about push. It was about it wasn't about pushing an agenda. Nowadays, you see an ad, there's an agenda behind it. Whether it's behind a bigger corporation that's trying to make a presence and try to make you buy certain products, vote a certain way, think a certain way. Back then, it was, hey, we're going to flex that our game's better than yours. Here's our commercial. Your turn. That's basically how it was, is poking fun at each other. And kind of like you said, and I've kind of seen those now and then. I haven't really looked at them recently, but older commercials just in general had purpose. They had meaning behind them. Nowadays, there's somebody on the other side of it who's that sole purpose behind that commercial is this has to make us money. They have to buy our product. Back then, of course, that was obviously the premise of it too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be advertising it. But like I said, there was more meaning and authenticity, as you said, behind it.
Yeah, it was authentic. Commercials today have lost soul. They have lost the soul, and like, obviously now with television, you can skip through commercials if you want to. You don't have to watch commercials. Most people don't even really watch mainstream TV too much anymore. They're on Netflix, they're on Hulu, they're on these streaming websites, which I won't even get into that because I love those. I love those too. But there was nothing that beat running to the bathroom during a commercial break, like, and all that. That was a great feeling. And even video games where they lacked the quality they do now, they had so much character to them that just sold it. It didn't have to, even though it did look cutting edge then. There's a reason some of these still have a lot of replayability to them, not just nostalgia, but because the stories have substance to them. They have character. They have this quality that just is not defined by the graphics. It's defined by the overall story, the way it's played. The mechanics aren't too, like, even if they're choppy to some degree, you don't care because it's still such a good story. It's such a good play that you just don't mind it. And yeah, and I feel like as we get older, you kind of lose that childhood sense of wonder and excitement that came with playing every one of these video games. But it's cool when you do find those games, especially when you get to play them with your friends. And when you find those games that still kind of trigger that part of your mind that's like, this is the moment I was chasing to recover from my childhood. And I feel like that's one thing I would love to see video games get back to. And don't get me wrong, there are still a lot of amazing titles coming out today. There are amazing titles, and I will consistently keep playing them. I won't get into that because I don't want to play favorites with video games, because all video games are great in their own way. Even if they're crap, they're great at being crap. So I don't want to get into playing favorites, but I do want to see that character come back to games that I love so much. And I do find it in some, like I said, and it's so enjoyable to get to have that moment where your brain's like, I'm playing this right now. Like, you're excited. Like, for those moments where you're literally like, hold on, I was going to like, where did it go? There it is. Those moments where you're literally just holding your controller like this. You're just super excited. You're just playing, or like you're just sitting there like super focused on the television. And I also just wanted to show off my shirt because it looks good. No, but yeah, it's those moments that draw you in where you just don't want to put your controller down. Those are my favorite kind of games. It doesn't have to have the best graphics to it. It doesn't have to have the best story, but if it draws me in, and I can sit there and next thing you know, it's like 5 hours later. It's like, holy shit, I have a life. I'm an adult. I got to figure this out. Those games, I love them. Instead of like seeing I'm not going to name names because we know which ones I'm going to be talking about without using the video games names. The constant recreation, reskinning of these games, these money-making, microtransaction, essentially soulless creations that look like essentially video games Frankenstein monster that just gets thrown out to the public and we're supposed to eat it up. It's like, okay, yeah, it's entertaining at first, but where's the replayability? Where's the sustainability? They don't care. They're making their money. As long as you buy it and you spend a lot of money on their microtransactions, they don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, and there are some companies that do care, and I'd love to see those companies expand and grow. And I will say one, and this is a little bit of a controversial statement, just because of in recent years what they did. Bethesda was one of those companies for me that created stuff that had replayability to it. And I know a lot of people didn't like Fallout 76, but it was its own entity. And a lot of people didn't like Skyrim getting remastered and rebranded and thrown out there like a million times. I've seen all the memes, and it's and it's fun. It was a masterpiece, and I can see why they're going to milk it for everything it's worth. And then, the Creation Club. I don't know if you knew anything about the Creation Club.
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, the Creation Club was essentially mods that you could purchase created by the community, but also by people who were like developers that work for Bethesda.
Are you talking about like people who like these mods where you're driving around in a car in Skyrim and stuff?
Oh, no. It's just because you could already get mods for free on Skyrim. Why would someone want to pay for one? You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
Yeah. So also, for every time I say like from now on, I'm going to keep a jar next to me, and I'm going to put $1 in it.
And then put it back in your pocket when the podcast is done.
Exactly. Well, no, I'm going to put it in a jar, and that's all going to fund and go towards my equipment for the podcast.
Okay.
Because until I learn to shut up and start, I enjoy my money.
So I mean, kind of, I guess, what like we're kind of talking about today with like the different consoles and how we grew up and the origin of gaming in and of itself. I guess kind of one thing, just to kind of change gears a little bit, kind of going a similar route is, okay, we've talked about those consoles. We talked about Nintendo with their Dreamcast, their
Sega with Dreamcast.
What's that?
Sega with Dreamcast.
Sega. Gosh, I suck. Sega with their Nintendo 64, Sega with their Dreamcast, PlayStation with their PS1. Now, in a very similar mindset, what do you need for those consoles to work? An actual game. So kind of going into, I guess, back into the older side of things, at least for me, I didn't really, I guess, go as far back as Nintendo or Sega or the beginning stages of gaming, but one that comes to mind right off the bat, and I don't know if you ever had the chance to play it, and it was a very popular game at the time, at least to me, was Jak and Daxter.
See, and it's interesting. I never played it, so I'd love to hear it.
Really? Oh my goodness. Yeah, so Jak and Daxter was PS2. It was a, I guess, open world concept game, but it wasn't open world to the point you could wander. You could wander, but ultimately you had an objective that you had to fulfill to get to the next point. And kind of doing some research on that game, it was interesting to see that, because in the first one, Jak can't talk. He doesn't say a word the entire game. He like grunts. He does like just inaudible things, kind of like you see. I'm trying to think of an example.
Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, like Crash Bandicoot. Perfect example, like Crash Bandicoot. Basically, that's how Jak was.
Sorry to interrupt. Are these like anthropomorphic? I suck with words. Animals, or are they like humans? Like, 'cause I don't know this game at all.
So Jak was human. Daxter is actually a I want to say he's a mix between a weasel and a squirrel. I could be wrong. So anyway, he's a guy, or no, he was a guy. He was a guy that, and he falls into a vat of this like purple stuff, and he comes out of it. And rather than him being, I think him and Jak were friends or whatever, they like work together. And he comes out of it, and he's this little weasel, and he has the same voice. He can talk, which was weird that he could talk, but Jak couldn't. But anyway, kind of going into that, how Jak wasn't able to talk is that in the second one, they made him so he could talk, because Naughty Dog, who actually makes the game, Naughty Dog makes Crash Bandicoot, actually, don't they? Or they did?
That's actually a good question. I'd have to look into that. If I can pull it up while you're talking, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, Naughty Dog kind of listened to the community from the first one. There was a huge craze. There's a bunch of people who got behind Jak and Daxter, but there's a lot of people who didn't like the fact that Jak couldn't talk. So with the second Jak and Daxter, I think it's just called Jak 2, and actually from there on. Okay, cool. From there on, they got rid of the and Daxter part. It was just Jak 2, Jak 3, and then I think it was Jak X Racing. So it was kind of like a Mario Kart kind of vibe, but like it was like Jak X Death Racing or something. I don't know. I played every single one of them, and I played them through multiple times. But anyway, that was kind of one of those points that, or one of those games that I grew up playing, and I just play over and over and over. And the thing is, nowadays, you play like Call of Duty, you play Gears, you play any kind of campaign. There's the recruit level, there's normal, there's usually hard, and then there's like a legendary level. It's super hard. Back then, there was one difficulty. There wasn't. I guess that replayability in the sense of, oh, I completed it at a lower difficulty, I'm gonna bump it up a notch and make it harder. It was, you jumped in and you played through it at that level. But it was just one of those games that, I don't know, just like tapping into those memories of, I haven't played that game in 10, 15 years probably, because it was on PS2, and I switched over from PS2 to Xbox 360, and I don't know, when I was like 10, 11 years old, sometime in middle school. But I can like tap into some of those missions, some of those moments in that game in my memory where I could probably, you could stick me into that mission and I would look at it and just immediately know, oh, this is what I have to do to complete it, which is crazy. Which really for any game, I'm sure you have games that you played back in the day that you haven't played in 10, 15 years, but if you jumped on it, you'd be able to just, you go through it with your eyes closed, which is crazy to think that that muscle memory is there, but I can't, or I guess for like on an education side, you can't remember a test. You can't remember a curriculum for a class, but you can remember a game and how to do it frontwards, backwards, inside out. So,
and that's fascinating to me to think about it. Just exactly what you explained right there, because it has that soul to it. Not too many people are fascinated by math. If you are, that's awesome. More power to you. You are the people that make this world go around. Me, I hope to go around the world. I don't want to be the person who makes the world go around. Well, I hope to help people, but I'm not one of those people who can sit there and I'm never going to be an engineer. I'll tell you that. But I do appreciate those people that do like find that stuff fascinating. For me, oh no. But yes, like to retain that stuff, like even with Medal of Honor Rising Sun, like that is one of those games that I can retain. And like even now, remember what the characters look like, makes me laugh because I was like, man, this is so cool, so realistic. It's not realistic at all. But I just remember playing multiplayer on that. I think we even played it at your house a couple times. I think
yep, I definitely had it.
Yeah, and I just remember like I remember one time we played Infection. We played Infection outside your house when we were kids. And who went inside and started playing video games? Who was that? Who went? Because they were in it, and we were all hiding, and then it just went inside.
Oh yeah. Because we were all outside. We were all outside, and we were hiding. We were in our spots or whatever, and it was like, okay, it's been a long time, haven't seen them. And then you look inside and you see the light on.
Yeah, you see the lights.
Somebody's in my room. What the heck? And all of a sudden you go look and just sitting there. I can't remember who it was.
That's good. We're going to have to talk to the group about that because that's going to bother me. I want to know.
And as soon as we find out who it is, we're getting them on here and they have to explain themselves.
Oh, yeah, they do. They have to atone for that sin that they committed. I was in I think it was in a tree. I don't remember, but I was just sitting there.
Yeah. But I guess, so I kind of went into a little bit of detail about Jak and Daxter, and that was probably the game I had spent really the bulk of my younger years that I can think as far back to as I can. Prior to that, like I could think of like Resident Evil on PlayStation 1, which that kind of thinking back to that game, it terrified the crap out of me because you look at, and even right now you could play that game and it's terrifying just with just the way it's built, the jump scares, and then the fact that the quality isn't that great. You think about it, like stuff's in detail. Oh, like you could see stuff coming from a mile away. On there, you can't. It's like pixelated. It's like it's that terrifying factor. And kind of think about it now, and I know you've kind of went into them a little bit, but I know for myself, as far as like horror games, like playing like Outlast, Blair Witch, Alien Isolation, all these games that are kind of, I guess, have the biggest presence in the horror game industry nowadays. It's I look back at like that Resident One or Resident Evil, I don't know if it was one or two that I was playing back then, but um, back then it was like, oh my gosh, this is so terrifying. But guess what? I'd come back and I'd play it again the next day. So there's something that kept drawing me back to it. That at that age, like the kids my age were playing Mario Kart on Nintendo. They were playing Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation. They're playing these fun arcade games. Spyro, it's another one that I really enjoyed playing. And I was there playing Resident Evil, and it's just like it explains a lot. With looking back at it, it explains a lot. But no, it's yeah, I don't know. I guess is there a game that sticks out to you? I know we kind of talked about Rising Sun, but
so there's another one actually, and it's funny because reflecting on it, I don't even know how this didn't really desensitize me. I didn't even think about it, but there's this game called, I believe it's called, and it's not Shadow of the Colossus. That one's fun. That is a great game. This one's called like Shadow of the Colosseum. I don't even think it was a big game. It's like a gladiator-based game, and I love the concept. First off, I love any historical warriors. I've bought so many games just based off that. I've played pretty much every Assassin's Creed game. I bought Deadliest Warrior. I used to watch that show religiously. Like, I love historical warriors. So, of course, I was like, yeah, I need this. So we rented it from Family Video, which that's another whole thing. I miss doing that. I miss going and renting video games. It's still obviously something you can do, but there was just nothing like going to like a place like Family Video or even predating like really that. I don't know. I never actually, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if Blockbuster had video games because I don't think we ever really had that. Family Video was our predominant thing around here. And
I don't know either. I would imagine they did because that's, I mean, really any kind of disc that can be rented. You'd think that they would have jumped on that, but
100%.
But also they went out of business, so who knows? Maybe that's why.
Exactly.
You ever see those memes where somebody like, I can't remember. It was something about Blockbuster. I don't know. There's something came up about Blockbuster, and all of a sudden it was like trending on like Twitter or something. And there were people like tagging it, and they're like, "I still have this movie." And it was like some movie from like the early 2000s. They're like, my late fee is gonna really be hefty."
That late fee would probably bring Blockbuster back, honestly, at that point.
Yeah, if they're just like, yeah, we want all of our late returns, they'd probably get enough funding to restart that company back up.
You'd see the red box and you'd see the block box.
I go through the campaign, I go through whatever it is to go from point A to point B that the game is trying to get their point across. You get done, and the only thing you can do is playing at a different level. Like whether it's easier or harder, and then that's it. It's like you kind of lost me. So as far as the replayability, like you said, for like Fallout games, how you can make a different character with a different build, how you interact with a character in the game. You could say one thing one game, you could say the complete opposite the next game, and the outcome at the end is going to be different. Like that's amazing to me. How literally one decision in a video game can. Because you have hours and hours of gameplay in between that decision and the end, but no matter how you do that, all those hours, and you could do that to a T the same as the first time, but because of that one decision you made in the beginning, it affects the outcome. Whether it's saying, no, I hate that guy, or killing that character on the spot when you find out that they were supposed to be your ally. Like,
or nuking a whole city.
Yeah, or nuking a whole city. Yeah. But
and it's just funny that you bring up Fallout because like I talked about like how I like lore. Like Fallout has one of the most, and also the Elder Scrolls series have some of the most expansive lore out there. And also another video game series I enjoy is the Dark Souls series, and by From Software, they have great lore too. Theirs is in your face as Fallout, and the Elder Scrolls series is. But one thing I like about Fallout is that they try to keep things as linear as they can. Like, if you, for example, Fallout 4, the major big bad, not to be too spoilery, I'm not going to spoilery, I'm going to call it big bad, but one faction that exists within their world is the Institute. And with the Institute, it's cool because I was just watching a video on YouTube the other day, and I didn't even think about this. There's a mission in Fallout 3 called the Replicating Man or the Replicant or something like that, and it has a ambassador from Fallout, like, Fallout 4 area. What is it, like, where does it take place? I'm already spacing.
Fallout 4?
What?
Fallout
Yeah,
4?
It's
Not
like,
DC, that was 3, right?
no, it's like Massachusetts or something.
Oh, yeah,
like that.
Boston.
Yeah, it's in Boston. Yeah, Boston. And they have like their whole little rip-off of MIT. It's CIT, and that's where the Institute is located. And this video like totally blew my mind because there's a representative from CIT in Fallout 3. And he's there trying to hunt down this synth that, how the Institute creates these. They've existed, and they established that in their lore. And I have to go back and play the original Fallouts that, like Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. Love to play those just to see how much more they expand on the lore. I love it. I am absolutely enthralled by it. I really enjoy the time they take. And a lot of people are like, wow, that Fallout 4 is kind of like a gray area because it doesn't give you as many choices. But I would disagree. I feel like there's I think a lot of the thing was like that a lot of people liked about Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas was the moral ambiguity of it, whereas Fallout 4 kind of felt like you just go around killing shit until the storyline ends, and you're supposed to be like, well, like get one choice really. But no, there's a lot of things you can do. It's just a lot more. It's a little bit more subtle than with 3.
Yeah. I can kind of see where you're coming from with that vibe. One thing I really did love about Fallout 4 was the settlement side of things. How you could take over a location and literally build like your own mini army, your own little fort. My favorite was I can't remember the name of it was a castle that was like on that peninsula out by the water.
Yeah, the Minutemen.
Minutemen. Yep. Yeah, I always loved taking that one and just but yeah, that was an aspect to the Fallouts that I really liked, and that they carried over, and that was really the focal point of 76. Is you have to build a settlement and basically be able to sustain yourself. You have to have your own water, grow your own food. I mean, obviously, it got to the point where everything got thrown out of whack with hacks and stuff of people being able to make as much as they wanted of certain things. But basically it came down to it was I remember when that game first came out was wandering around and you'd like get these diseases and die because you couldn't find food or water. Of course, now it's just to the point where you could go exchange you have thousands of caps and somebody's selling water 1 per cap, and it completely, yeah. So I wish that they could almost go back and hit a reset button on that game, because having the information that they do now on how the community reacted to it, on how it kind of changed the dynamic of what Fallout is, if they went back and kind of tweaked the small things of, I guess what really made the game stand out were kind of the things that hurt it as well. And we talked about that in the last episode, so I won't really go into it too much, but yeah. With being able to play with your friends and kind of took away the feeling of Fallout, but it gave us a different feel.
Well, I kind of wish they made it harder. I wish they made it something where you genuinely had to rely on your friends. Whereas, and also I get it, like, I understand there's people who don't want to play with other people, so they made it so that other people can play it. But give them a way of playing. Like, give us a way of upping the difficulty. Like, say if we are in a group, we're in a party, how about all the monsters get stronger for us or something like that? Like, just give us something that makes it a little bit more difficult. It got kind of easy towards the end. I don't know if it's just we were quick to evolve and actually, not to derail my thought, I just thought of something for a segment moving forward. I think we should cover how hacks impact the video game community. I think we should cover that because that what happened with that mass release of those presents essentially destroyed the community. It didn't destroy the whole community, but it destroyed a major. It crippled the economy of Fallout 76. Fallout 76 has an economy established, and they crippled it. They literally just broke it. They snapped it in half, and it's crazy to see something like that happen in a video game.
Yeah, and kind of it's crazy to think about too. Is just hacks in the video game industry in general. Like, there's all these big companies like Call of Duty, um, even like EA Sports, that isn't a huge presence in there, but there's some is um, that basically they stand by and watch it happen. Like, of course, they people who they get it reported, eventually they get their account banned, but guess what? They just go make a new one. That's the only industry in the world really that cheating and hacking isn't like frowned upon that bad. Like, you think about it, in professional sports, you get caught cheating, you use a unfair advantage, performance enhancing drugs, you're Tom Brady, you deflate footballs, there's consequences. You get suspended, you get fines, you get like the hammer gets thrown down. Construction industry, you take a shortcut on building a building, you do it unfairly, guess what? That building falls down, people die. Like, literally every other industry of the world where you take a shortcut, you cheat, you hack, you don't do the job properly, and there's consequences. But the video game world is one of those, is that world that it's not very frowned upon, and it almost can't exist without those hacks, without those cheats, unfortunately. But
that was like, I think this would be a good segment to cover eventually, like hacking and the morality of video games and how it impacts other gamers who are being impacted by it, and also like how video games impact the human mind too. I think that'd be a good segment to cover it, and like for how it has impacted us through our experiences. So I don't want to get too much into this, just for the sake of time and for the sake of not wanting to kind of derail a potentially awesome source of information that we can bring to people too, because I feel like it's a very good conversation piece. Because I have my sentiments, my feelings about hacking in the video game industry, and it almost does feel like, though, it always feels like it's not cheating until you're caught. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, everyone wants to call someone a cheater, but how many people actually do cheat? How can we tell who's cheating and who's just, like, it's a glitch or they're that good, you know? Because that's everyone's first little, especially in multiplayer shooters. I'm sure there's been a time, everyone in Call of Duty, I guarantee you find me one pro gamer who didn't say that person was cheating, right? Everyone in this industry, in the video game industry, has at one time accused someone who probably wasn't cheating of cheating. Because it's easy. Why do we like to believe that someone's not better than us? Or that we've just put ourselves in a position where they could get us?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it could just, there's several factors, but we'll expand on that eventually. But back on the main topic of essentially video game history, since we kind of shifted from consoles, I just really like to think of where the future is going now. Because we kind of covered the past, I would love to think what the future will bring. I'm curious, what do you think? What is the next step in gaming? Because I was thinking for the longest time, VR. VR was like, when I started seeing the Oculus coming out and stuff like, I was like, this is it. And then I watched, Ready Player One. I was like, this is what we need right here. But it doesn't seem like that is taking over yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's there. Yeah. It's becoming a little bit more accessible. It's more ease of access, but it hasn't fully consumed the gaming industry yet. It's like we're still on system, but it's also like, why hasn't PC yet? You know what I mean? PCs are clearly better than a system because people want what they know. They want what they know. They know the easiness of it. And because also VR completely changes the game. And there's still things they're working on. There's still bugs there's major bugs they're working on with it. But I can't wait to see where the future of video games takes us. And I would love to get your input on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Like, years ago, just seeing those first hints at VR and just kind of basically putting you more into the game rather than it being you're pushing buttons on a controller and basically from there it's all done for you. Like, the game takes care of itself at that point. I feel like, it's interesting, like how you said, how it hasn't really taken off yet and how the VR industry is just kind of dwindling. Like it's there. It's like I have a pair of VR goggles myself, but I don't really have like I guess equipment that goes along with it to really maximize it. So I don't really use them. Like I could use them on my phone. I'm sure I could hook them up to my computer somehow where I'd be able to do something on my computer. But it's like, but at the same time, they're sitting in a box in my closet. So it's kind of like the thing that we wanted. It's almost like there's a missing component that obviously we don't know about because it's not prevalent enough in our lives to be like we can't put our thumb on it and be like, oh yeah, VR is failing because it's missing this component. Like we don't have that enough knowledge yet to be able to make that conclusion. So I guess it's going to be I guess a waiting game to see if it does take off, if it dies. Maybe VR is Sega's Dreamcast. Maybe that's the end of it for them there. Maybe what we thought we wanted isn't actually what we wanted.
Well, and that brings me to the point of like, we'll sit here and we'll dish out millions upon billions of dollars for the next Call of Duty that comes out. Why? But yet we get something innovative, we get something controversial, and that's probably a major part of it because it's controversial. It's not something we're 100% know. It's not something we're 100% comfortable with. I want to see something like VR succeed. I would love to see the video game industry move there, but I'm also scared of it. Because it's like video games are like a double-edged, like it's like a dual-edged blade. They're very good, but they're very bad too. It can also hurt you, and that's the thing. People need to learn to manage their time. And it's very hard to find people like above us who enjoy video games. We started a podcast to talk about video games, you know. And I'm not saying we're the first, but we're part of that community. And the fact is this. We can both recognize the harm video games can bring. No, they don't. I don't think video games create mass shooters. Mental health is mental health. If people have mental illness, that's whatever. That's a whole separate topic. That's something that we could go on for hours about. But the idea is this. Video games consume lives if they're not careful. They can be very fun or they can be very consuming. And it's about how you want to approach it. Like, I even get frustrated. And I know when I have to step away. And I'm sure you've seen it where I step away. I won't be gaming for a while. Like, we've seen some of our friends recently. They haven't been on for like a week. And it's not bad. It's good. It's good to see them taking a break away from video games, be it to get their lives back on track. Maybe they got derailed from something, or they just have something more important to them. And I think that's the biggest thing. We got to remember, video games are awesome, but video games are not priority. And I think that's a big factor that I'm scared with the younger generation. I'm scared of seeing them come up. I don't want to see it become all-consuming in their lives. And because I was talking earlier, I see little kids sat down with these Switches in their hands and phones, like modernized phones. Like, holy crap. You are already becoming a slave to technology before you even know what you're looking at. You're not even given the chance to decide if this is something you want to actually adapt into your life. Now, is it bad? No, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be considered bad. Is it good? Definitely not. It's in that morally gray area. It's ambiguous. It's like, where is this going to end up? They could easily just as much put those down 10 years down the road and be like, I don't ever want to play a video game again. But just on that same note, they could end up being one of those people who lets these video games consume their life. And they don't develop personalities. They just sit there and they play video games nonstop. Mm-hmm. That's all they know. It's like, there's a whole world out there. And don't forget that world out there. That world in that system is awesome too. It's cool. You get to experience multiple worlds. And that's one of the biggest things I like about video games. I get to go wherever I want in the world with video games when I don't have the funds to go there. Does it mean I never want to go there now? No. It does not. It means I get to enjoy going through space as some badass 6'5" monster of a man who can apparently walk around in over 5 tons of metal, which is so unrealistic, but it's cool. But on the same note, do I want to be an astronaut? No. But do I want to go travel overseas? Yes. Do I enjoy Assassin's Creed? Yes. Do I think that is the sole focal point of my understanding of the world? No. So I guess that's the biggest point for me is we need to balance it. We need to balance it and enjoy it and cultivate gaming as it's growing in the future. And I mean, you can look at the reveals. Look how sleek and futuristic they're trying. Like, they always do this, and I love it. For their first reveal of the new video game system, it looks so sleek. It's all white in the background. It looks so clean, and beautiful, and obviously, it's supposed to be sold that way. It's supposed to be this creation of the next generation of the future. Like, and it's crazy to see that. It's like, we got to remember, this is just something I play video games on.
Yeah.
Because like, it's getting to the point, like, how much is the Xbox Series X? $499?
I believe so.
That's $500. That's I know there's some kids out there that don't know that's a lot of money, but that's a lot of money. Unless there's some people that don't think that's a lot of money, well, guess what? You're good for you. But $500, no matter how much money I make in my life, will always be a lot of money to me. $1 will mean more to me than a $500 console will, because to me, I'd rather be financially secure than rushing to go buy these video game systems. You know what I mean? Because there's these people out there who will. They will sacrifice their meals to buy this thing. They will sacrifice paying for something that's more important to buy this system. And that's not how it should be. Prioritize. And that's the only thing I gotta say. And wait. If you want that, guess what? It's not going anywhere. History is guaranteed to always be. You got the past. That's locked in. That ain't changing unless, like you said, winners write history. Why do you think you barely ever hear about Sega too much anyway? And with the future is uncertain. The future is always going to be uncertain. So just tread carefully. That's all I got to say. And I wouldn't consider it like a ominous warning. Just kind of think of it as a cautionary tale. Tread carefully, move forward, enjoy video games, enjoy life, but make sure you don't allow one of them to overtake you, because I want people to be gamers. In the perfect world, I think everyone should at least try video games once. But I also feel the same way about guns. But we're not going to get political about that. I think everyone should try something at least once.
Yeah.
That is not going to hurt them. Just give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But also, if you really like it, don't let that become your sole focus.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have anything else to say after that deep motivational pep talk from you about video games.
I think that was a pretty good full conversation there. And
yeah, we can kind of wrap things up here, and I'm getting really hungry.
Yeah, and hopefully we will be moving into spooky territory and getting into horror video games. We kind of talked a little bit about today, but I think that should definitely be part of our October special. And,
yeah.
We'll definitely make it a wonderful Fright Fest.
Oh.
Don't ever let me do that again. I'm not scared at all.
All right, Mike.
All right. Go eat some food. I'm going to go eat some too.
All right, sounds good, man. Talk to you later.